During the European elections, we saw a 30% increase in DDoS attacks to very targeted political websites. Is that a coincidence? Probably not. Well, here to talk about today are two experts from the Anti-DDoS Coalition. And, well, let's learn a lot from them. My name is Lieuwe Jan Koning. Thank you for joining. And from the Security Operations Center floor here at ON2IT, we present you Threat Talks. And the subject of today is the hack of the European elections. Let's get on to it.
Welcome to Threat Talks. Let's delve deep into the dynamic world of cybersecurity.
Let me first introduce my two guests of today. On my right side, it's Octavia de Weerdt. Welcome. She is the General Director of the Stichting NBIP. And she is also the Chair of the Anti-DDoS Coalition in the Netherlands. Octavia, how many DDoS attacks do you see?
Well, you could say that there is a DDoS attack going on in every given moment in time as we speak right now in the world and in the Netherlands on the infrastructure or any kind of website.
So always. Continuously. Wow.
Yes.
And my other guest, Frank Dupker. He is the European Network Manager of NAVAS, part of NBIP. And you are responsible for the rollout of the technical infrastructure and also the sales part, the commercial part right. of all this. So in how many countries are you active, collaborating?
Well, our services are available in 10 countries in Europe. So not only the Benelux, definitely, but also in UK, which is part of Europe. Yes, no, but okay, it's an important region for us. The DACH region, Iberia.
Substantial area that you cover then.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, in this episode, we're going to talk about those DDoS attacks that we saw in the European election, of course. And what can we say about those actors? Are they nation state? Are they enthusiasts or activists? What is that actually? Well, maybe we find out a little bit. And we're going to talk about the Anti-DDoS Coalition, what it is, what they're here for, how can you participate, is that possible at all, and what's the key to success to this coalition? Well, first of all, Octavia, the European elections, we saw an increase. Is that a significant thing?
Well, I think it is. Seeing the time we're living in. I mean, we've been at the NBIP, we've seen DDoS attacks going on for at least the last 10 years since we started with this service. And we seen a change in the kind of attacks you're used to see like every day. Of course, we started with what we call the script kiddies in the attics, which didn't want to do their exam. Oh yeah, it's exam time. It's over in the Netherlands, so it's quiet now. But
you saw attacks on schools.
Yes, yes. I mean, by their own pupils, who don't want to take an exam. So, well, let's DDoS the site. We don't have to log in.
I would have loved to have done that when I was young, I think. Yeah.
Take care because you can't do that anymore.
It's illegal, yeah.
It's illegal, yeah. But we've seen that. And then we've seen and still see the attacks like on gaming platforms. If you ask gaming platforms which one of the main mitigations they do, it's on DDoS attacks. But we've surely seen a big change in like a political tinted kind of attacks these last years. So what we're talking about is like, we sometimes laugh, we see like a news item. I say, okay, and then we app like, okay, let's see what this will deliver us for today. Because once something is out there in the news, like political tinted, you could say you see the translation of that into the cyber area.
And Frank, you were all in that also during the recent elections. Can you say about who got attacked extra?
Well, it was all over Europe because we are in so many countries. We talk to so many people as well. And they came back to us, okay, what's happening at your place? We see this and this, see you the same. So a lot of websites or political parties were attacked. Definitely, it was like in Lead, it was announced on Telegram by some hacker groups to say, okay, well, you're still supporting Ukraine or whatever. So we will bring down a website. And 5 minutes later, as Octavia stated, bang, it happens.
So what do they gain from that?
Well, of course they're hurting our infrastructure because during those elections there was also a campaign running to find the weak spots in critical infrastructure. We definitely saw that. It was all kind of effective. But they want to support their cause. They want to show to Europe, oh, you guys are totally wrong. It's a good cause we are fighting for.
So they make the headlines and then it's on top of mind.
Exactly.
When you go to the elections. Ukraine or Russia or that's what they.
But I think once you target like political parties' website during election day, you're also trying to disrupt something or influence a little bit of what's happening, big or small. You know, if you are like, let's say you don't want, you're not sure yet which party are you going to choose or are you going to vote for, and you say, let's go to the parties. I have 2 of them. Choose one of them. See what their program is. You know, it's a way of influencing the kind of information that people get to their fingertips at any moment in time.
Yeah. So if there were, I mean, in Europe, this coalition land, and that's good for our cause here. Then, but if you are in a 2-party system, for example, it makes sense that if a foreign country doesn't like one of the 2 parties to bring down the one they don't like, that's what that would be a strategy.
I think that has been happening. We have seen that, but also in a multi-party environment, it's especially more difficult because you influence it very. I think if you're it's a whole political question. If you're in a 2-party system, you already know what you're going to. I think you already know what you're going to do. But in in a European environment where there's a lot of parties and we some similarities there, you can actually influence on the day what is happening once people don't get to the right information.
In that sense, you might say that the European system is a bit more weak than, for example, the United States.
I think so, yeah, but that's also at all.
No, we cannot know, but it's...
But I think it's more because of the cooperation, what we're doing, and because of the diversity which was still standing for, that's a little bit of a translation into what's happening on a political area.
So, Frank, the attacks that we were talking about during the elections, they were targeted against political parties? Or can you speak a little bit to what are typical targets?
Yeah, websites of political parties, a lot of them. Probably, as Octavia stated, to not prevent to share information with the people who have to still to make their mind up for the election, but also the infrastructure behind that. So all the traffic going on during elections, there's a lot of press, there's a lot of extra data running around, and that's the moment to show that the infrastructure is very vulnerable. And they kind of, were some points successful at that. So it was a wake-up call for many of us as well.
But then I imagine that only strengthens your idea that we need to be one Europe, for example, and fight this off.
Absolutely.
That could be an unwanted side effect of those attackers then.
Yeah. And NAVA started like 10 years ago, but today we work in 10 different countries, but we still can cooperate a lot more to share data and to prevent the outer borders of Europe. Yeah. That's our vision where we want to get. And all those attacks that you've witnessed, how many of those are in the news? What do we know about it? Not all of them. You only see the news guys want to sell the papers as well, so the headlines are clear about it. But I would say it's like the iceberg. You only see the top of it. And what's really going on? Well, you see some reports from us and some other companies who do protection, but it's the iceberg. You only see the top of it.
So in reality, it's the threat is much bigger than we all experience.
Yeah.
And what's the harm of this to us as Europe, for example, or the Western world in general?
Well, the DDoS attack has always been a disruptive way. It has a disruptive thing in it. So if you target an infrastructure, you can bring that down. If you target a whole website or a group of websites, you can bring that down and you don't have access to that information. So by the nature of it, DDoS attacks are disruptive. We have seen a few years ago, remember we had like what we were calling like ransomware DDoS attacks, like pay us or we will attack you, which actually happened. We have seen it at our members and some new members who called us, we're getting like blackmailing email, pay us so many coins, otherwise we'll bring your website down. And that actually happens. And then what you see is the power of this collaborative mitigation model in which the attacker comes, we say knocks at the door, sees, there's a mitigation measurement in place. So, well, we leave then,
So this is like the sticker on your door. This is this object is secured by.
Yeah, because one of the more complicated things we get that all the time. It's attribution. You started with that, like who is behind this attack?
Yeah, everybody always wants to know.
Everybody wants to know, but really, I really think, but from our point of view, we are on the mitigation side. Also with the coalition, I think you could look at the coalition like it's like stepping up into this cooperative model and upgrading it even more, because Navas is on itself. It's a mitigation center, which does a technical part, and it's part of the Netherlands infrastructure and does its big job. And then we stepped up and said, well, what if we collaborate even more on a higher level, on a broader level with each other, because it's needed. And our main goal is...
You do this in peacetime.
Yes.
Well, people argue that we're already in the start of a second Cold War, or maybe the cyber war has already begun. Can you speak a little bit to that, your view on that?
Yeah, well, actually, if we start talking about the Anti-DDoS Coalition, the birth of the coalition was in 2018, when the whole infrastructure of the Netherlands, including government, was targeted with a big attack. And that wasn't even political. It was a big attack, and it was disruptive. And then we stepped up together with all our partners and said, well, this may never happen again in the Netherlands. It was a big goal, a big scary goal, like what if we would say this can never happen again? That's how the coalition stared. And
it's a bit like in the 50s when we started Delta werken.
Yeah.
Could you compare to that?
Exactly. Because then that doesn't mean there is never a storm coming or never a high level rising of the seas, But it means that because you are working on it now, you stepped up to it and you have everything in place in case of. And we've seen that. We've seen that this past years happening, because these attacks are happening. And yes, there are some websites which go shortly down but then come up. But if we wouldn't doing what we're doing these last years, the impact would have been major.
So preparation is really key in peacetime.
Absolutely, yes.
So you mentioned the Anti-DDoS Coalition a couple of times and its inception. So this is a not-for-profit organization. Could you tell a little bit how you're organized?
Well, the coalition?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, because I think it's really a big example of what we can do with each other, especially in the Netherlands, because it's actually what we say, it's a coalition of the willing. We're not even we're not in infrastructure, but we do intensively work on a multi-stakeholder approach, which we're really good at in the Netherlands. What we call the PPS, public and private approach of projects on a national level. We've shown with this coalition, it's a big success. Well, I'm very proud. I'm the chair of it, but I'm very proud of it, I have to tell, because we actually do.
There's so many attacks going on, and we only notice the surface of it. So that's part of it is your preparation.
Yes, because we were talking with one of our members in the coalition, for example, are representatives of the banks, and they say, well, you have to explain during peacetime why you're still preparing. Because it's a very, let's say, economic intensive preparation. It goes, millions of euros are going into DDoS mitigation.
And that's why you have one of the reasons why it's nice to have a lot of members. Then.
Yes.
So what kind of members do you have? You mentioned a bank.
In the DDoS Coalition, there are I think 17, 18 members by now, which representatives of the banks, government, the tax office, which government, of course. We are in there.
I'm fine with the tax office going down, eh?
No. You don't want that, I'm telling you.
Oh.
You'll get your money later.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, with interest. Okay, so the tax office.
Yeah, universities who participate from a research point of view, SCDN, which is one of the members who are really working on the .nl infrastructure.
Yeah, domain names,
registrars. So I think, and even we're even open to commercial parties if they wanted to join, like mitigation parties. But we have a little bit of a thing there, because we ask new members to be able and willing to share knowledge.
And what kind of knowledge are you talking about then?
Well, I think we're unique in what we do, because we do, of course, we share general knowledge. Like if we see one of these attacks, like that's been talking about, we share it in between. Well, are you doing the same thing? And that's a big thing. It seems so evident that we do it, but it's a big thing which we reached by this moment in time. And I think we're unique in the world by doing that, that you actually are at the fingertips with someone in the government to say, what is going on? Do you see anything happening? Do we have to step up our game? And everybody's sitting on their own infrastructure and their own information, their own...
so it allows you to zoom out and see the bigger picture, countrywide maybe, or sector-wide, like that.
Especially. And then, as a coalition, we reached two main big things. One of them is we're actually do what we call DDoS oefeningen, which are DDoS drills, like really hands-on, nationwide, see how big how good your infrastructure is against DDoS attacks. So everything we're talking about, we're actually doing it ourselves to
ourselves. Practice makes perfect.
Practice makes perfect, which is unique. We have presented that even in the world, on this scale. And then we also want to share information. When we did that, we took a very technical approach. We actually developed a DDoS database, fingerprinting database, because I remember years ago when we started talking about it, it was a bit like science fiction, but we're very used to that in the malware and virus world, You even have names for attacks or, groups of them, and definitions. But that didn't exist in the DDoS world. But
and you have that now.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, because in previous episodes we discussed that there are so many different kinds. DDoS is so much more sophisticated and fine-grained than just putting a lot of data on someone. Huh? You can do it on the application level. It's with the DNS protocol amplification. There are a zillion types of attacks. And as I understand it, it's really important to know what kind of attack you're under. Because then you know your mitigation.
That's sorry to interrupt, but that's the misunderstanding. People think, it will be okay. The mitigation can be done. It's fine. But we saw last year typical new types of attacks where we really, like in the old times, the endpoint security, the cat and mouse game. It's still going on. We saw new types of attacks we really had to fight and find new ways to mitigate. So, there is a lot of money and intellect around innovating on attacks as well. So that's new game.
Well, I think our main goal with the DDoS fingerprinting database, that's why we are really asking people who just to talk about, you can contribute to that, but if you want to be a member of a coalition, you have to contribute. You have to be able and willing to contribute to the database or to the broader knowledge sharing or to the development or during these drills. We work really on a red, blue, or purple team. So we have a lot of areas in which you can contribute to make this Delta Works, which we're talking about, to make it stronger, make it bigger, to make everybody...
So you need to have staffing in place that understands all the sensors, that know what kind of... you need to be able to respond to a question. This is the kind of attack we're having. This is what we're trying.
Yes.
This is what works. This is what doesn't work. And universities are probably indeed what you said, research. So there can be many different reasons.
Yes, we can contribute from many areas.
Are you looking to a particular kind of expertise or maybe international expansion in particular?
On the coalition itself?
Yeah.
Well, we have got that question a few times. At this moment in time, we're looking at the national level and the most in Europe. But we do know that there are more informal groups who are experts on this level. And we're trying, but sharing on this level, it's very tricky. And you know why,
Yeah.
Because, so the coalition, it's very open, but also very...
Controlled.
It has to be.
Yeah. Frank, you do this on a daily basis, that collaboration. Can you explain a little bit what are things that work or difficulties? I mean, different cultures maybe?
Well, that's one thing, but you can overcome that by building trust. But collaboration on sharing data, that's always the problem. Okay, who wants first? Well, I'm not. Okay, so if the data are behind commercial walls...
So why would you not share data? So I suppose I am a member of the...
That's my question. Why wouldn't you? Because it helped the general cause. But they are still afraid about the data and a lot of paperwork. And then want to, sometimes take the credits for it themselves, and really open
but it's
cooperation.
also a commercial model.
Exactly.
For a lot of commercial parties, there's a commercial model, but that's a bigger problem if we talk about sharing of threat intelligence. I personally think that one of the bigger risks we will face the coming years is that threat intelligence will will stay behind paywalls. And we, from our point of view, as an NBIP, as a not-for-profit foundation, and also from the coalition, say, well, threat intelligence should be shared open, and we don't mean open with everybody, but open into the right community who is able to actually use it in the right way.
Yeah, because from the commercial perspective, the idea is, hey, I have this knowledge, I can charge for it because I know these IPs or these techniques or anything, and if I sell it, I can actually send an invoice, which is counterproductive in the bigger scale. That's what you're arguing for.
Yeah.
So we have been talking about the Anti-DDoS Coalition. You also have the NLBP. What's the relationship between the two?
It's NBIP.
NBIP,
but,
sorry.
NBIP it's a foundation itself who delivers services to the internet service providers. We were one of the first members of the Anti-DDoS Coalition. So we are one of the members in the coalition. Because we run the mitigation center, we have a lot of knowledge, technical knowledge. We have data which we are able to share for research purposes. And we actually actively being part of the coalition.
So we have the coalition. That's the overarching umbrella.
Yeah.
And then NBIP is on the operational side as well. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's not. All the members in the Anti-DDoS Coalition are just members on themselves. They do NCSA is there, the SOC of the tax offices is there. Everybody does its own thing, but it's what I'm saying. It's a coalition of the willing. Everybody is willing to actually contribute into this coalition. As an NBIP, we do more services towards the internet service providers. We're also a member, for example, with other partners into an anti-abuse coalition. So we are a member of more coalitions by the nature of who we are. But Anti-DDoS Coalition, it's really a coalition of all these parties who are able and willing to contribute to this anti-DDoS mitigation problem.
Yeah, and on the European scale, so governments probably, they don't have this commercial incentive, so that probably works, or is that also difficult?
Well, governments, they are very protective at sharing data. They say, okay, that's very nice. You are not NGO, you're not government, so what you are, a foundation. And then you have overcome that. So internationally working with universities and internet exchanges, that's the best way to move on. They are most cooperative to share data and to help us forward.
Yeah, and ISPs, they are great for the one other reason, which is that's where it happens, right? That's where the mitigation can be.
ISP and VoIP traffic as well. It's getting more important, and we're getting more members in the VoIP segment as well.
Well, I guess everybody who has run any kind of service on the internet has this problem. That was the main goal. That's how we started. The main goal of NBIP started was, if we have a common problem, what do if we think of a common solution instead of trying to solve it ourselves? And I think one of the biggest and most interesting things is that it's not sharing just for the sake of sharing. If you contribute to the coalition, if you contribute into the database, if you contribute into doing the drills together, you will always get something out of it. Even the database, those fingerprints, imagine you could actually use them for attribution. Imagine you could actually recognize from which botnet it's coming. Imagine you could use that for, because talking about DDoS mitigation, you have first to detect it. If you wait until your website is down, you're too late. Then your service is already disrupted. But what most part, I think 90% of our mitigation, the funny thing is, most of the people, I remember when I started about an NBIP, about mitigation, they say, well, you are reactive. You're just, trying to mitigate all these attacks. Why don't you do something proactive about it? But it's working together, because once you have mitigation in place, 90% of that is also detection. You detect a DDoS attack coming on your infrastructure before your website goes down, so you redirect your traffic through the mitigation center. So you are actually proactive about, because you detected. What if you could use this database in early detection of attacks and what is going on. And then you can mitigate. So your website, it's not going down. That's what we're talking about with the banks. And one of the guys there, they say, one of the reasons we are actually getting all our uptime, it's because we have all this mitigation in place. Not because there is no DDoS attack going on, but because we have all these measurements together in place.
Yeah, you need to have it well before the attack actually happens, because then you're definitely you need to reroute your traffic, for example. That's not a thing you do overnight. It's not like in the movies where you do some swiping and then suddenly the traffic is rerouted to the main engine. Yeah,
it's not that easy.
It's not that easy. No,
it's Hollywood, I'm telling you.
Yeah, a lot of effort gets in that from the start. So. On a European scale, is that anything? Is there such a thing as a coalition for Europe, for example, or for the world, or is
well, not at this very moment in time, but we do believe in European collaboration. From our own point of view, from NBIP.
It sounds like the political parties in France and in Spain, they all have similar issues, right? So it does make sense to me.
Europe has the similar issues, and I think really we're working towards European infrastructure. I mean, if you look around talking about Europe, I think the main pilots going on, it's about digital sovereignty, European infrastructure, and distributed infrastructure where you can be at the place where the attacks are happening and being independent, going towards more of an open infrastructure where you actually share this information and are able to use it where it's needed. So if you ask me, and of course I'm a little bit militant, otherwise I wouldn't be here. That is our biggest dream. To get, from an NBIP point of view, and Avast mitigation would be have the mitigation at the distributed data centers in Europe. We're actually part of one of the European projects, and we're doing intensive development on that, which is a big thing for us because we are a small organization. But our dream is to bring this mitigation solution into Europe, make it a made in Europe product, and make it as open as possible. I'm realistic. I know what it's possible in matters of transparency and openness, but make it as open as you can on the hardware and software layer. And then bring this whole idea of collaboration on this level in Europe. That is unique, and I think we are able to do that in Europe. It's an made in NL, this multi-staker approach, but it does speak to our European.
You can prove it works. Huh?
Yes.
So what if I'm an organization smaller and maybe too small to what do I do then? Is there any let's say you run a web shop. Is there any way you can contribute or benefit from the work of the coalition?
Well, I think that it's only through, we're not targeting the small businesses in itself. Our principle and idea vision is that if we enable the big infrastructure in the Netherlands as it stands, the internet service providers to get another word like security by design. What is security by design? It's the same way what we're talking about. Your provider should deliver you a clean network, a safe network, and network in which DDoS mitigation is already part of it. And we see that happening. We see that through the internet exchanges, which see that, as what if we are at this point, this connectivity point, and we will deliver the services secure by design already.
Yeah, and that's probably what you're talking about a lot with those ISPs to get it done. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because then if our internet infrastructure is relatively safe, then everybody benefits. And so as the webshop owner, I just need to make sure that I'm with an ISP that is actually part of the coalition, has very good...
And if infrastructure is scattered enough, then no big attack can hurt us anymore, because your network is that big, and then, it is not possible to generate so much traffic that the network can handle it. That's finally what you want to achieve.
Yeah, you want to achieve a network bigger than the biggest attack.
Yeah, yeah. And it's always cat and mouse. But
well, we've seen that actually that it's very funny because we've seen that when we did that last measurements we were talking about, in which we say we have 42% of the .nl domains behind the Navas in this case, that spans around millions of IP addresses and websites. You don't even realize that. I mean, the smaller shop could be protected by the fact that...
So the coalition of the willing is...
It has an enormous spillover effect.
Okay. I have one final question for the both of you, and that's so if we're looking a little bit into the future, what do you fear most?
Lack of time.
Lack of time.
Lack of time to build knowledge and to fend off new attacks.
Yeah. So and because new attacks, you're saying that you already said there's many new techniques coming all over and over again.
Yeah, sure.
That's always a worry, of course. The cat and mouse game.
Well, it's pushed a lot now by the geopolitical situation and the money and intellect put in it. That's definitely a big driver, and you have to keep up with that.
Yeah. Did you?
Well, I think I would just go back to that part in which I said one of the biggest risks I see is the not be able to share this knowledge and, go that threat intelligence or knowledge, hiding behind paywalls. And don't get me wrong, everybody has to pay for something, but also a paid service.
Yeah.
But I'm really more positive than fearful.
Well, that's the call out to everybody listening to share information, to share intel. We all know it works. We should start doing it if we're not already doing it. You guys proved that it's actually possible and it's really effective. A couple of takeaways for our viewers. I mean, first of all, during the elections, there's a tremendous rise, really a lot, and that's no coincidence. And apparently, to me, what I learned is there's a lot going on under the hood, right? It's so much more that we don't see, and the fact that it's not in the news doesn't mean it's not there. There's been doing a lot of work by many people to get that done, and also preparation.
Yeah.
In peacetime, prepare, because if you wait until the attack hits, it's too late. You're going down.
It's not a question if you're attacked. It's the question when are you attacked.
Yeah, so let's make sure that right now we take measures already for the future.
Yeah.
Be prepared, definitely.
Well, thank you both very much for being here at our Security Operations Center and explaining a lot about the DDoS Coalition and about attacks. And it was really interesting to hear all your insights and your advice. Thank you to our listeners. Did you like this talk and do you want to learn more? Do you want to make sure that next time you have the next episode of Threat Talks in your inbox? Like this video, like this podcast, and subscribe to it so you will not miss any following episode of this. We'd love to hear your feedback. So if you can email us at team@threat-talks.com or leave your notes in the comments, we'd really appreciate this. And from the Security Operations Center floor here at ON2IT, I thank you very much and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Threat Talks, a podcast by ON2IT Cybersecurity and AMS-IX. Did you like what you heard? Do you want to learn more? Follow Threat Talks to stay up to date on the topic of cybersecurity.